All right, everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Jay Banks. You know what time it is. Tuesday. Another episode of the PowWow. I got my man AI in the building. What's going on, big dog?
Hey, what up, guys? How we doing? We good? We good?
All right.
Excited for today's episode, man.
I know, dude. I know.
Yep.
So she's been a friend of mine for a long time, man. And Pamela, you've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations through you know your course of your life, and it's really brought you to this moment here. With releasing, you know, the book that you did, and then the nonprofit that you're working with right now, and I can't wait to learn more, because this is something where, you know, when it comes to like self-healing, like there's issues that people have, and they don't know how to untangle those knots, right? Like, you know, you're in a position where you feel like your back's against the wall, you can't breathe, you can't get out of a situation, and I'm assuming that's what this entire like self-healing book is like, you know, stories on you know, paths that people have taken, and you know, the whole shaman mentality of like self-healing, right? Like, you know, you use crystals and everything to self-heal, correct?
I do, yeah.
All right, yeah. Keep that mic about a you can pull it closer to you if you need to, for sure.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. All right, so let's start off first about your nonprofit. So you know, tell me a little bit about that, because this is all based here in Cincinnati, and it's a lot of the stuff that you're doing is tied into like the Cincinnati Bengals and other associations that are right here, right in the city. So,
Sure. So the Lotus Sanctuary, I started in May 23 of 19.
okay,
And
it's specific.
Yes.
So there must have been a reason why, like, you
That's
know, that
my
was
survivor anniversary.
There you go.
All
See,
right,
so
okay.
so congratulations.
I tried to, after you know, years of healing and doing various things, I tried to make that day a positive. So it was the day I became a Reiki master one year. Different years I've done different things, and on, you know, the 15-year anniversary, I started a nonprofit, and I feel like, you know, I started giving back 10 years out, which was in 14. I joined the planning committee for the Take Back the Night, and we just had it last Thursday, which would have been so cool if I came last week, because then I could have told people about that. But it was our 33rd year, and here in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and we have just a gathering of people who come together, who are survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and violent crime. And, you know, it's not for people that are necessarily past. It's for people that are, you know, living, and allies, and also public awareness for these things, for people to be able to, you know, grow and heal. And it is April is Sexual Assault and also Child Abuse Month awareness for both of those this month, and it's also autism awareness. My grandson's autistic spectrum, so a lot going on in April, but.
Yeah.
It's a time that we get together every year to try to, you know, bring awareness to the community and get something going on to where people can come down. And if you've never gone to get healing, because there's people, I mean, I've had people come in who, you know, are in their 50s and 60s and have never gone to a support group, never, and they just decided this has affected me in my life, and I want to come in and I want to get some help now.
Right.
COVID is extirpated this whole entire thing.
Of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
It's really testing people's mentalities on you know, how much they can handle.
Well, PTSD comes from a lot of different forms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of things. It's you know, it's not just, you know, military and war. It's not just you know,
Absolutely.
a violent crime or some kind of trauma. PTSD comes from, you know, accidents or things that happen in your childhood, and it might not have been something traumatic for one person, but for you that it was, and so therefore it was. So
sure.
These are things that people, you know, in their lives, you know, they don't even realize necessarily that are affecting them in ways.
Right.
And so the goal with the Lotus Sanctuary is to actually give real healing. So I get a group of healers together. We come together once a month. We have people come in. If you have PTSD from any source, you're welcome. You come. We've been having it at Trinity Episcopal Church, which is
very cool.
my church on Madison and Covington. And, you know, we do about 2.5 hours, and people can just come in, and we have sound healers, Reiki healers, massage, we've had Thai yoga therapy, we've had all these different modalities. People come and volunteer their time, and you can do a 15 or 20-minute mini session. It's possible to do more than one if there's time and there's space available. But we want people to come and access healing because, the talk therapy and the traditional therapies, I mean, they've been there. And obviously from all of the, the mass shootings and all of the things that we see, it's not working.
Right.
There needs to be more. And now with COVID, there's even more than that because, COVID has caused PTSD for people who were in a hospital and thought they were going to die alone in a hospital, or being in your house, shut up in your house. There's people that have had all kinds of mental health issues, and people have had mental health issues from the shots. Or having COVID itself. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that we don't know that are going to come down the road, things that have developed through this. But it is what it is, and but there needs to be things in place. And that was the idea. Was like, let's give real healing to people that mostly can't afford to go and maybe get a healer.
Right.
Or it's also a way for some people who are want to kind of try it out. And then they can maybe connect with somebody that they can get healing. And all of the people that we have are people that would do payments or do a sliding scale or do something and make it affordable. I do free healing for people that have had, any kind of trauma or PTSD.
Good for you.
And eventually we're going to, we want to broaden things. We want to have, a space. We want to do a safe space for people to be in where people can come and talk to people like themselves that have, have PTSD or have, some kind of, trauma background. Sometimes it's hard to be in the world.
For sure.
You don't know how to relate. Like, you can't talk to your family about it. People don't go to family events. People don't go out with their friends. You act in a different way sometimes.
100%.
And not just after it happened. There's things that when, like on your, your survivor anniversary, or, you run into the person in public that maybe was your abuser, or all of these different things can cause triggering.
Oh yeah.
And then that person's right back in that place. And these are things that sometimes you can't talk to people that haven't experienced something like that because they don't understand.
Right.
And they're like, oh, aren't you over that yet? Or, I mean, sometimes people say the most insensitive things. It's like,
get over it, right? Like,
oh, didn't that happen a long time? Well, because it happened a long time ago doesn't mean it's not in the present for you when those moments come up.
For sure.
And so, again, the idea behind the Lotus Sanctuary is to offer healing. We also want to offer life coaching, spiritually based life coaching. We want to have a safe space, and eventually we want to be able to do real financial help, and then maybe temporary housing, because that's another issue. Because, sometimes, say if you were sexually assaulted, you live in a building, your abuser lives in the building, and then you have to move because you can't be there.
Right.
Where are you going to go if you don't have family or friends, or sometimes people don't. Especially people that don't have children. Single people are the people that are affected by this the most because sometimes they just don't have resources or places to go or things like that. So that's why it's important to get some of these things in place, because really, if you have children or if you are a domestic violence survivor, there's all kinds of shelters, all kinds of programs, all kinds of everything. But really, any other kind of trauma, there's not a whole lot out there.
Right.
And as we all know, our military suffers a lot, and people just don't know how to connect, and they don't know how their friends group, the people that they grew up with, their family, their spouses, they just don't know how to relate sometimes. And being able to bridge that back together and giving them real tools that they can do for themselves. They can do chakra balancing themselves. They can do meditation themselves. They can do breath work and get back in their body, and take that moment out, and then be able to interact again. And these are things that you can teach people, and then that gives them a new lease on life.
And that's really cool, because this is something that like I could have used back when I was assaulted, but for me I'm a guy, so I feel like you're supposed to just suppress your emotions and just get over it, but for me, this would have helped out a ton, because you're right. Years go by, and it only takes one thing to trigger it. And especially with me, I thought people stopped listening to me when I was talking, because they would just stare at my eye or stare at my ear, and it was just I was just talking to somebody that was literally just going, holy shit, what happened to this guy?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, I'm sure that's not what they were thinking, or maybe they were listening to what I was saying, but it didn't, for me, like, I felt like the conversation was gone and people were just like looking at me like I was used, right? Like I was just a used car on the side of the road now. But
Well, one of the things that you just brought up is a very valid thing. People don't think that this happens to boys and men, and it does.
right,
Yep.
It happens a lot more. This look at what Johnny Depp's facing right now.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, people have, like, oh, he's the bad guy and whatever. This lady did a lot of stuff to him.
There's a lot of similarities to what she's doing to what the girl did to me. Very conceited, very like sociopathic, where like Amber Heard's wearing the same outfit that Johnny Depp wore the day before. So if he wears his hair in a ponytail, next day she comes in wearing her hair in a ponytail. If he wore like some Gucci tie with a little B on it, she wore that same tie the next court date.
Wow.
And it's like what type of like, she thinks it's cute, but like everybody notices that this is like a narcissistic tendency, right?
And she was egging him on. I mean, a lot of that you can see that she was like, and then she
setting
got
the
him,
camera there.
She got him all riled up, and then set the camera up, and then got him to come in and like.
What are you doing, honey?
Yeah. And
why are you mad?
Yeah. And who knows what she had said to him prior to that to do all that. And these are the kinds of people that they're calculating.
For
you
sure.
know, when you're being gaslit, I mean, that's a whole big thing. And in fact, there's a thing on Netflix about it that just came out, I think, yesterday. Netflix or Hulu. There's a show with Julia Roberts called Gaslit.
Stars.
Yeah. Stars.
Isn't that crazy? There's so many of them now.
Yeah, well,
that Julia Roberts, one of the most famous actresses in the world, is on Stars, which is dope because it's like Stars is like, all right, let's put our hat in the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, these shows highlighting these things are so important because people think, that these stories are, whatever. I mean, you would not believe the stories that I've heard of things that happen right here in Cincinnati from survivors. I've worked with people. I've been doing this work for a while now, and I know women that were in support groups that I used to belong to who, their ex was actually put in jail by them, and when he got out, he was threatening to kill them. So they had to wear the things on their body, and their kids had to wear them, the buzzers, and they had to have them because he was threatening to kill them. And as soon as he got out, and she was in the program to where, and what happened was all of a sudden she just disappeared. Like, she didn't answer her phone, and we knew that he got out of jail, and they had to move them.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
Well, that's good.
and people think that things like that. And I met a lady. I used to work for Enterprise, and just randomly, I met a lady who was human trafficked by her family.
Man, here in Cincinnati, right?
Here in Cincinnati, P&G executive. This was back in the 80s. And her dad was like, a real high up person. And he was a part of that whole Epstein thing. And people think that this is not a thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
She was flown all over the country. Her sister and her brother, from the time she was 7 years old, every weekend they were flown to California and all these places and taken out to these places. And her parents were forced to do it. Because
I was going to say, was she kidnapped or was she paid?
They groomed the parents. They got the parents to do, things, and then taped it and then held it over their head.
That's insane.
And then too, he worked at this company, so it was like his job was involved in it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's crazy, but people think that these stories are just like, it doesn't happen here. We're a hotbed for whatever reason because
the reason is I-75. The
Yes.
100%. I-75
major highway.
goes straight to Florida, and
I think it has to do with the mentality here, though, because
The
mentality. The women here, if you threaten their family, if you do whatever, they're not raised to be wary of strangers as much. They're not raised like in New York and LA and these bigger cities.
Midwest, yeah.
Women,
This is the Midwest.
women, are like, oh, get away. If somebody, here you start talking to somebody. And people talk to people, and and then once they get them, it's easier. That's what I've been told by people that I have listened to the task force in Kentucky. I'm a first responder, so I have to take these classes and, all of these different things. And they, go and take a class on human trafficking, guys. It's so eye-opening. The things that they do, the way they manipulate. The lady that came to do she was our speaker at Take Back the Night. Her name is Kimba Lou. Look her up. Look at her story. She was human trafficked by her truck driver's stepfather.
Jesus.
From the time she was like 12, 13 years old, all over the country in truck stops. This happened.
That's so I've read stories on I-75 being incredibly dangerous because of the truck stops. And I've told Kaylin a million times, like, hey, like if you're, if you've got to stop to get gas, like don't go to one of these truck stops in I-75 because 12 hours you're in Mexico, like you're being shipped out to Cuba, it's three turns and you're in Tampa. It's 75 south and then you get off the exit and you're right there.
Well, they use enterprise vehicles, by the way. I've wanted to go and do some stuff with them. As soon as I had this training, I was like, oh my God, because they could stop a lot of it. I didn't know what the signs are. There's tattoos, there's these various signs that you can look up anywhere. They have what they are. And if you see the markings on the neck or on the hands, the
female put the tattoo on there to say, hey, this is I'm in trouble, I'm in danger.
Well, no, they're tattooed by their trafficker.
Oh, okay.
It's an
brand.
ownership.
It's a brand.
Yeah,
marketing,
exactly. Yeah, but I didn't know what they
Interesting.
were. I had no idea until I took this class, And my really good friend Sarah, who also works with me at the Lotus Sanctuary, is an attorney, and she was the sexual assault and domestic violence prosecutor down in Christian County before she retired. And she would run these first responder classes, and the classes that she put together were fabulous. And they had the Kentucky Attorney General and different people that came in from these task force and gave all of these people this information, and it's out there to be had. And if anybody wants any of it, I'd be happy to share what I have with you. But it's eye-opening, and if you have children, especially, you want to be aware of what's going on out there, and don't be, when they had those people, they were trying to take people from Walmart here in Florence, a year or so ago.
Oh,
I mean, there's all of these things, and now, like I said, with COVID, it's made things a little, it's even cagier because people are more solitary now. People don't, aren't out as much. So if somebody goes missing, nobody knows for a minute,
Right.
That's
true.
That's true.
That's so
Very
true,
man.
It's kind of crazy to me to think that you mentioned domestic abuse, and I was a victim of it myself years back. We haven't talked too much about it in the past, but it's crazy to think people go through this mental state and it's not even your fault. You're just wrong place, wrong time.
Yep.
I guess you could say. And it runs really deep with people because they're projecting onto you, and you're just there in the moment and the present, and you're a supporter, and they're not as big of a supporter of you, even though they act supportive. But then when it comes down to it, they're projecting. And obviously this isn't trafficking, but the abuse aspect, people are just projecting themselves and putting all their monsters, demons, whatever you want to call, onto you, whether it's physical abuse, mental abuse. And I think that it's so fascinating to me because, I survived it. I have my own trauma, and, we live with it. And the healing has been a process, of course. But, the deeper I think of it, I find myself feeling more sorry for them long term. And that's kind of I pity to a degree. And, you care for this person if it's a relationship of mine but I feel like my feeling sorry for them is my way of coping, I guess you could say. And obviously it's vastly different than trafficking and whatnot, but it's still this trauma that I have processed for years and years and years. And this happened. I was in a band, and I wrote about it in my lyrics, and to a degree. But then that process, once the band was done, I was left with my current state of mental with it. And, I continue to process, and I continue to deal with the trauma, and the healing is, I don't know, I don't think healing is, there's a timetable. It's kind of
it's ebb and flow.
Right, exactly. But it's fascinating to me because people deal with it in so many different ways, and the fact that you have a way and you have a process to a degree, it sounds like, based on the book and what you've told us, that you can hone in and help, maybe isolate the problem and then, maybe dig out parts of that. Because we talked about, holistic healing, so it's natural. And then there's, we also, I've read, or I was listening that, like, people take, pills, or they do holistic. There's different ways to go about the healing. But, like, when it comes to trauma, you have to, like, come, like, raw, vulnerable to really get to that place. And I think that's a hard part for men, as Jay just mentioned, that there's no, like, people are like, oh, you have problems? Oh, I've got worse problems because I've dealt with this. Yours is just so much. There's only so much they could have done to you. And we as men are just like, all right, well, I guess we're just not going to talk about it. It's just going to be, is what it is. We're just going to heal on our own. Yeah. It's going to deal on our own. Like, it's fine. Like,
men don't talk about it. And I applaud you both for being able to speak about it so freely, because a lot of people don't. And there's so many people that don't realize all the people that have had trauma, whether it's childhood trauma, and that's kind of the worst in some ways, because you carry it through your life.
For
and
sure.
It does come in. It shows up in every single relationship. It shows up in everything that you do, and how your decision making. People don't understand how it affects you, how greatly it affects you. And it affects every relationship that you have. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's out of print, and I don't know why it's out of print, but it's out of print. But this
the name alone sounds like it's got a thick book of just knowledge that you need.
It has, well, what it talks about is when you experience trauma, like, the things that you're talking about, how in your body it stores it, it compartmentalizes it to help you, to save you. Because otherwise, if we all dealt with it all day, we would all probably go insane and not be able to deal with it. And gracefully, when you're a child, you don't remember all of it. And then you grow up, and, like, I've had childhood memories that surfaced, for me, and it was really, it's stuff, like I said, you have to go, and healing is, it's a circular thing. It's like peeling an onion. There's layers of it, and it takes time, and like you were saying,
it's a good way to describe it.
It's so, because you couldn't do it all at once.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do it a little bit at a time. But then also finding that thing and that way to help yourself. And in our book, I don't know what I did with it right now, but
it's right here, so we can show it off.
So yeah, we show. There's 26 stories in there. There's 26 different ways of, helping and healing yourself. I talk about chakra balancing as the medicine. So there's a story that a person tells, and then there's a medicine that they tell that, helps people. And there's lots of different journaling things in there. There's breath work. Mine is chakra balancing, and I give several different ways that you can do that.
Can you explain chakra balancing? Because there's some things, like, there's a lot of stuff here that we need to, like, break down to everybody listening.
Sure. Happy to.
And I want to know too, because there's a lot of stuff in here. Like, honestly, the word shaman doesn't ring with me, because I don't know what it means. Mm-hmm. But I've never been very, very spiritual. And what you said before was, you're the cross, right? Like, you're the X in the balance, which is very telling, right? It's like it's you're saying that you are the voice from here to the next. Mm-hmm. And those are things that we don't, as humans, we haven't been around very long, right? And we're still learning the human body and how to process things, and how to live longer, and how to harness the soul, and make sure that like we do that self-care. And I want to know a little bit more about like the treatments that you do, and then actually the word shaman, what, what's the meaning behind it? Because when it comes down to it, for me, I don't know much about like religions and things like that. Like, I've always just kind of been like agnostic on those things. Mm-hmm. But is shaman something that's like a Christian-based thing? Is it its own thing? Is it just is it a word that just tells you how to own up to your own soul and talk to your soul? Like what's the meaning behind
Well, there's various ways that you can look at it. So, shaman, the word shaman, is a person, and in indigenous tribes, and these are before recorded times, and even Native American that we had here. The shaman is the medicine person. That's the person that the whole community, the whole tribe would go to when there was a problem. And
Okay.
they had various ways to help people and heal people, and there's always been that. And then as as our world progressed and things happened, and of course we have doctors. So basically a shaman is a doctor, and that's
a holistic doctor?
a holistic doctor.
Okay.
But to call yourself a shaman, you would have to go live with an indigenous tribe, be trained and apprentice under another shaman, medicine person, and learn those ways to actually call yourself that. So what in the Western world we learn is it's kind of a collective. Michael Harner wrote a book on shamanism, and he's kind of like the godfather of shamanism in our world, and various people trained with him and have written other books, and what it's all about is they took a collective of what shamans do. Shamans journey for people, and when you're talking about that, it's like a journey is where you basically do a meditation, but you do a meditation with that person, or you can do it with them there, or like in a healing session, or you could do it not, and you journey and ask spirit, your spirit guides, your God, your angels, whatever your belief system is, you would ask for that person, what's needed, whether it's healing or whether it's, mind, body, or spirit, because we're all of those things. And so, shamanism, as people practice it here, mostly we're shamanic practitioners, where we do some of the things that shamans do. They do other things. There's extractions where you can take, like, say, if you have something in your body that's causing you, disease, you can do an extraction, you can do a soul retrieval, and that's where what happens when, say, in the case of your trauma or yours or mine, when those traumas happen, there's a thing that's called soul loss. It's where you
lose a part of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so basically, you can do a soul retrieval, and you can bring those pieces back, and it's like it's a really awesome thing to be able to help people, because you do feel more whole after you have a session, and that happens for you.
Right.
I mean, it really does, because you go back and that person and that child, or that whatever age you were when this thing happened, you go back and you address the thing, and then it's not like it's going to be gone or whatever, but you deal with it instead of just burying it. And that's what people do, is they bury the feelings. So you address the
Always.
feelings.
Yeah.
That's what society's told you to do.
Yeah.
It was easy to like just be like not talk about it, and then like outside of the external stuff I had to deal with at the time, like at my job, it interfered with my job for a little bit of time, but like I didn't give too many details because I was just like, they don't want to hear this. Like I just need to get past this situation and move on with life, and that was kind of my thought process.
There's a lot of ways that you can deal with it, though, by doing meditation and working with the pieces of it, doing affirmations. And because a lot of times those things make you feel a way about yourself. You feel unworthy, you feel unlovable, you feel all of these things. And while you're feeling unlovable, your subconscious, not a conscious thing, but your unconscious feels unlovable, you're not going to be in a good relationship. You're not going to, all of these things, life is not going to work for you in that way.
And that's the toughest thing to explain to people too, man. Is like, you got to love yourself before everything else is going to fall into place, because you might not see that you're being hard on yourself, but that ends up reciprocating in the real life, and it just affects your day to day completely, because you're so consumed on what happened to yourself, and you don't feel loved anymore, or you don't feel appreciated, or whatever the case may be, and it's really tough to get past that part. So when you were saying what's your type of you said rocker, like what's your type of Chakra therapy?
Oh, chakra balancing.
Chakra therapy.
Okay, so let me explain chakras. There are 7 main chakras in the body. The root chakra is kind of like underneath you, just like when you sit, your sit bones. If you've done yoga,
I've seen stuff about that. Yeah.
So they're energy centers in your body, actually physically in your body, and so then you have 7 of them, and your top one is like about an inch above your head, and so it's actually, and that's your crown chakra, and that's your connection with God, spirit, whatever your belief system is.
Is that your aura, or is that something completely different?
Your aura is around that, but chakras are energy centers in the body, and when they're off balance, then there comes disease. So that means that whether you feel bad, you actually, contract something that's a disease, or that's how it manifests. But it starts with the emotional. So the trauma or whatever the emotional, when you don't deal with it, when you bury it, it becomes disease. Everything that we have can be, led
become
back
negative.
To that.
I totally agree with that.
What happens is the cells we all have cancerous cells, or we all have different things in our body, but when you have those negative emotions that you don't deal with, it goes to a place. There's a wonderful lady named Louise Hay, who's no longer with us, but she wrote a book called Heal Your Body, Heal Your Life, and there's various forms of it, and in it, if you open it, there's all of these affirmations, and basically say if you have whatever problem you have, there's an affirmation to turn that subconscious thing around in your mind. So say if you have liver cancer, well, there's affirmations for that. And when whatever that is, you can write them on your mirror, you can say them, you can do meditations, you might need to do inner child work. I mean, there's all of these things are out there on YouTube and all these various places, or you can find somebody, like myself or another kind of healer, and find a modality that you feel like, fits with your belief system and what you'd like to do, and go and actually get some guidance and some help with it.
Right.
But there's, so when you balance a chakra, and I explain this in the other podcast, that basically what happens is, so with crystals, for instance.
Yeah.
You take a crystal, like this is obsidian. This is a root chakra crystal. And so when it's in the area of my root chakra, this crystal brings that chakra back into to right
alignment,
pattern. Yeah. And so you can lay, you do a crystal layout on each chakra and do a corresponding one that will bring it into balance. And then you can bring the whole body into balance. And so basically when you wake up in the morning, if you have PTSD or depression or, a lot of other things, how when you wake up, mornings are hard. But that's the moment that you have stopped everything. So if those first few minutes that you open your eyes, if you can get yourself on the right track, it can change your whole day. Yeah. Or if you're not on the right track, I lay down with stones and do a meditation for 15 minutes. I can shift myself right out of it and moving on. And not have to be in that. And what happens basically when you are in a depression, or when you are feeling those awful, the anxiety or whatever your feelings are, whatever they are, basically what happens is it shuts off your crown chakra. So your connection to God and your guides and your angels and all of that, it isn't there. And that's the alone feeling. So basically you're just cut off from connection to heaven and your guides.
Right.
And so, being able to open that back up, then you feel connected. You feel, you can, I don't know if you guys have people that have passed on, or, just beings or entities around you. I know Archangel Michael is with me a lot. You can feel their presence.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're praying, if you have a daily practice, or, in the evening, whenever people do whatever they do, and you call them in and ask for their help, you can feel them with you.
For sure.
And so what happens is when you go into that place where you can't, it feels like a low place. You feel low. I don't know if you
feel
guys,
alone.
You feel alone. You feel lonely. You feel, you just, and sometimes you physically feel awful. It can make your stomach and everything else. But again, these are ways. So you can do, you can use crystals. If that doesn't work for you, there's essential oils that balance the chakras. You can do a meditation, because there's meditations and that you just visualize things, and it'll tell you to visualize, your heart chakra, the color is green, and you imagine it flowing, and so you can visualize yourself into alignment. So there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different sound healing. Sound healing is really cool.
I was just going to talk about that too.
Yeah, that was on my mind too.
So there's each chakra has a frequency.
Sure.
So if I don't know if you've ever looked them up on YouTube, but there's ones that balance the chakras. And so it'll go through and you'll hear the tones, or they'll have the crystal bowls that they play. Mm-hmm. And that's what those things are. It's actually, when you're you go listen to a concert and you're actually getting a healing. You're actually, doing something that's really beneficial for yourself. And all of these things are self-care. Yeah. These are self-care things that a person can do for themselves every day. I learned how to balance my chakra system, and I learned how to actually it's chakra is the correct pronunciation, and it changed my whole world. Mm-hmm. It changed how I operated in the world, and there are times that I still
you feel balanced now.
Yeah, and when I don't, I work on myself. Mm-hmm. And it's something I have to work on all the time. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Esther Hicks?
No, I have not.
She is a person that talks about law of attraction. Actually, The Secret was actually written about her, but she took herself out of the book and out of the movie because she felt like they were trying to exploit people. But you can listen to her. She has.
That makes sense, though. Like I don't mean to interrupt, but I can tell that the book, The Secret, could probably stem from a lot of what this is, right? Like, speak it into existence, talk about it, be about it, and it'll happen. Yeah. And that the secret was of course, if you're going to ask a bunch of billionaires how they did it, they all said, I spoke it into fruition. You know.
Well, and that's what law of attraction is.
Of course.
Law, and the thing is if you can keep your thoughts right, and that's what she says, if you can get on that track, it only takes 17 seconds. Get on the right track in the morning and not the wrong one, and your day is going to be different. And what you attract is what the vibe that you're putting out, and that's how the universe works. Is what you're putting out is what you're going to get back.
Right.
That is so true. I'll like sometimes I'll be out and about, doing my thing, and I'll be like, you know what? If I was just being a little bit more social, even though I'm a social person naturally, sometimes I'll just like a recluse, and I'm like, I'm just gonna chill here in a room full of people, but I don't really need to be social. Mm-hmm. And I'll notice that like people will want my attention, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to give it, but then they'll feel my energy, and they'll like push off they'll pump the brakes, I guess you could say, and they'll say what's up, and then they'll move on. I'm like, I wonder if I'm just like putting this energy out that they know not to come into my circle. And even if it's like not fully intentional, it's just like my day was bad, I had a long day at work or a long morning, like where I was just not able to get on the right track quick enough. It might take several hours, and I'm just like, when I have issues at home, I clean. That's kind of like my I don't know, it's like coping. I vacuum stuff up. I have a husky, so there's always something to vacuum. So like it's one of those things where it's my way of riding my rough start, I guess. Right. And I notice it in the public. I'll be out and about, and I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I should be projecting a little bit more positive energy, and I'll recognize it mentally, and I'll be like,
when you practice that, literally you'll see it come back to you. And what I was going to say is, this is shungite. This is one of the most protective stones, and I wear it if I go out, and I put it on the right side of my body, and that keeps everybody's negativity away from me. So when you're empathic, and that's what people who are sensitive to others can feel other people. I can feel things in other people's bodies if I open myself up to it.
Right.
So, everybody has different gifts, and most healers are empathic, and so you feel other people's stuff. And so, and when that impacts you all the time, it's like, man, it's overwhelming. Yeah. 100%. And so, and you don't even realize, you think you're sick. Well, you are, but it's because you're just. It's the emotions of others that like, I don't know if you guys, like 9/11. Oh my gosh, I got physically ill with that. I mean, the collective was out there, and that it was just waves of just the grief and whatever. I mean, it really, really affects you if you are empathic. So
I am empathic as well. So like I definitely
you gotta get some stuff to protect
I should definitely
yourself.
do that. I've got
You
my
should
2 I can
ground-
add on to my
Yeah, you should
little
ground in the
collection.
morning.
Yeah.
Ground yourself, and what grounding is where you literally put your feet on the floor, and do a short. You can do it real simply. Just really connect with, like, again, if you're a Christian and you believe in God, you're going to connect with God and your angels and your guides and say, and I call in Archangel Michael. He's the angel of protection, and I tell him and my guides to guide my steps, and I imagine roots growing out of my feet, and I ground myself to the earth. And all of us, we are a soul in a body, so a lot of us like to be out of body, and so you're not all the way in your body. It allows a lot of things, you just operate in the wrong kind of way. So getting yourself into your body and, dealing with, being grounded when you go out of your house makes a huge difference in your day. It'll shift your whole day. They always talk about like morning routines. That's a thing. Have a morning routine. Whether you pray, meditate, whatever it is that you do, ground yourself, and start your day, in a good frame, and it'll hugely change, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in life. And that's the thing. A lot of people who, like we were talking about, don't go get help, don't deal with these things, these emotions, these problems, and sometimes it's stuff that you never thought about or never, and you don't realize the ways that it impacts you, and all of that information is out there. It's like things that people do, poor decision making, not being able to make a decision, or there's all of these little subtle things that happen, and they're called trauma responses. So when you're living in trauma response, and like you were talking about the projection, that's what people do. You don't even realize you're sitting there, looking at this other person and calling them out for this or doing whatever, and really it's the thing inside you, and you're holding up that mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
And then but once you take a step back, deal with your own stuff, and then find somebody else that's balanced. A lot of people trauma bond in relationships instead of finding somebody that's kind of like that's in a balanced place.
Mm-hmm.
We find other people that have trauma issues.
So true. Yeah.
And then that's the person you decide to have a relationship with, and it usually doesn't end well because it's all you're feeding off each other, or you're trying to heal each other.
Right.
Often negative events.
And there's a lot of that too, man. Like, you've got somebody that has been through trauma, and and I've had relationships where I've had girlfriends that have been abused as kids and stuff like that, and it's not until you actually water the plant, man, and tell them like, hey, you're better than the way you're treating yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's what happened to you at 10 years old, it isn't going to define you at 30. You know what I mean? And it's tough to do because you feel like, man, like something happened to me that doesn't happen to normal people, and it's one of those things where it's like, man, like it's such a tough position to get yourself out of, to say I am better than that, right? And it's not until a lot of the times you've got to have somebody else that waters you and says, hey, like, you are good enough, man, like you're better than you're bigger than your body gives you credit for. That's something that, like, as cheesy as it is, it's a John Mayer song from like the early 2000s, but like the verbiage of that song, like your body's bigger than it gives you credit for, like, or you're bigger than your body gives you credit for. Just saying, like, I'm stuck in this, but like I'm so much bigger and so much like better than how I've been treated or where I've been. And like one of these things, like as you're saying this, like this whole shaman thing, like I can't help but keep thinking about singing or talking to plants, right? Like, if you yell at a plant, if you talk negatively to a plant, like, you don't think that the actual plants have emotions and things like humans do, right? But if I can sit there and yell at a monstera plant and say that, you know, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, that thing will die. Like that plant will literally like seize up and die. But if I sing to it, like my dad used to sing to his bonsai tree. And like my dad's not a singer, he's a printer, right? But like he was like, these are things you got to do. You got to put this out there so that these things can know that they're appreciated. You know, and whether it comes to a plant or a human being, like, you know, you've got to water that plant and you got to sing to it and you know.
You can do the same with water. You can write something on a glass and put it on, you know, in the water and put it and let it sit, and like, you know, love or joy or whatever you want to write, and it literally will change the molecules of the water.
Yeah.
And then when you ingest it, it will help you. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but there's a whole book on that.
Yeah, water has memory for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
It
And
holds. Yeah.
I have a thing which is love, and I have it in my fridge on the top shelf, stuck in the glass, so that all my food has the essence of love. Because I want my body to be healthy, and I want, you know.
I'm starting to realize why you're always happy-go-lucky, man. Every time you come in here, it's like the only thing that's holding you down is a job. Other than that, like, you're like, man, my life is good.
Right.
Well, there's just things that I've done, you know, for years now, and things that I've learned, and I'm still learning. And every person on this book, Stephanie, our lead author, Jeremy, her husband, you know, all of the people that are involved in this book are all healers.
I can't wait to talk about it, man. We haven't even. Whoa.
We got to get into that.
I know.
We got to get into that.
Bro?
Yeah, she wiped it.
Oh man, we should have had the camera facing the other way. She just went face first into the life-size checkerboard.
Yeah.
Connect Four.
The book itself, I mean, Stephanie was the glue. She wrote in a collective book called The Sacred Death, which was about death and dying and helping people, you know, to cross over and transition. And I don't know if you guys have ever gone through that with somebody where you know, had an elder or somebody in your life that was passing, and that you helped take care of them, and, you know, and gone through that with somebody. But that's such a special thing to do for someone, and such a, you know, it's just a privilege and an honor to be able to help someone who is dying, you know, to cross over.
For sure.
And so that's
a tough job. That's a real, like.
So this book was about death and dying, and so then you know, the publisher, Brave Healer Productions, Laura DeFranco is our publisher, and she, you know, with Stephanie, decided to do this project where we would actually get together as healers, get a group of people together, meet.
26 of you.
Yes. And 24 of us met in person, or what, anyway, 23 of us, I think. There were 2 or 3 people that couldn't be in Teo. We went to Teotihuacan, and I'm saying it wrong. I always do. It's the Kentucky, y'all. That's what it is. But it's Teotihuacan.
I'm glad you said it, because I was not going to be able to pronounce that.
Mexico. It's 30 minutes outside of Mexico City, and they're pyramids, and they only have about 20% of it excavated, but it's this amazing place, and there's these sacred sites where they did things. We were rebirthed in the place where all of the ladies went to birth their children. We did a ceremony there. We did all of these ceremonies, and we did all of this stuff, and we worked on ourselves and cleared out our own garbage, so that we could then write and bring the writing in for the stories that we wanted to tell. And some people, like myself, I told the story, you know, basically of the thing that caused me, the catalyst for me becoming a healer. And that was my rape story. And so not everything in it is that or that deep or that, but some things are deep and worse. And so there's various stories, but everybody's telling about a thing in their life that was a trauma, or that was a thing that they dealt with, and then they gave a medicine of how to heal. And all
26 chapters.
All 26 chapters. Hand me the book really quick.
So each person got their own chapter to tell their journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is incredible. So and you said that she's done this before. Is there many people that do these, like each person gets their own chapter?
Yeah, Laura, Brave Healer Productions. If you go out to Amazon, and you can look up either that, or you can look up, you know, Stephanie and start there. But there's
What's Stephanie's full name?
Stephanie Urbina Jones, and she is a Tejana singer, and she is amazing. She, besides being a healer, and her and her husband co-founded a
They
group.
seem pretty badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they co-founded a nonprofit, and they take people on these spiritual journeys.
That's incredible.
And so that was the idea: is let's take this group of authors that are going to write this story of their trauma story, and let's get them together and let's go on this and do the spiritual work, and then through that process. So we met on Zooms prior to. We went and had a week in Mexico together, and then we all came back and we wrote our chapters, and then we submitted them, and then we had processes after that. And so the book,
that is dope. So you guys went out and to Mexico City, and then you guys met each other, and then after that, you guys wrote each.
we had book workshops every day, like writing workshops.
Oh, that's smart. So
Yeah.
she's basically like getting everybody together, and then giving you the tools that you need, and then once you go back home, you're already amped, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to write this chapter.
Exactly.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, and a lot of people had a lot of, crazy healing things, and again, peeling more layers. And some people, the thing that they thought they were going to write about prior to going, had experiences there, or something came up there, and they went in a completely different direction. There was supposed to be 25, and that's a cool story. Sherry had a thing happen. Her sister passed, like, right before us going, and I don't know, like maybe 6 weeks, a couple months before, and she's like, I can't do this, and at the end she was able to pull herself together, and that's how we end up with 26. It's supposed to be 25, and so and her story is amazing. Every story in here is about somebody who went through something that just altered them,
Change their life completely.
Change their life, and I mean, in my chapter, I'll give a little bit share a little bit.
Which, by the way, you're going to be giving a couple Kindle copies away, right?
Yes, I do have some copies to give away, and if you want to look the book up, it's Shaman Heart: Turning Pain into Passion and Purpose.
We'll tag it below. So if anybody's on Facebook right now, you'll be able to look below, and then the link will be there for the actual Amazon.
So my chapter is called Becoming One of the Group: Managing PTSD and Living in Trauma Response Through Chakra Balancing. And so I start out with, my story is one that many healers have in common. A thing happened to me that shifted my whole existence, and I'm not the same person I was, nor will I ever be again. The trauma that I experienced led me to find healing for myself, and somewhere along the way, my life purpose of being a guide and healer was revealed to me. This is the story of how I became one of the group. So that's how I start mine out.
Hey.
And so I tell what happened, and I also shared a personal journal that I wrote that a year into group therapy, I went to the Women Helping Women group here in Cincinnati. I started out in the Thursday night group, and later on ended up in the Monday night group, and I bounced around back and forth and was a part of several groups started out in like 2006. And see, that was the thing. It took me almost 2 years to go. And at that time, the way they were doing group is you couldn't start whenever they wanted you to kind of start in the beginning, like they had the first 12 weeks, and then after that it was like a repetitive thing. But they wanted you. So I drove there, and I was late, and I sat in my car. I was like 4 or 5 minutes late, and I sat in my car for another 2 minutes. And I was like, well, I'm late, I can't go. And I went all the way home, and I waited another 12 weeks. But I did go that time. The next time I went, and I didn't say a word, and I sat in that group session. And I thought, what am I doing here? And is this going to help me? And I had to wait for the wheels to fall off of my life for me to go, and what the heck is going on? What's wrong with me?
Right.
And then all I could, go back to was, the rape that I experienced and that I never dealt with. I was drugged. So it was really easy for me to it didn't happen because, I didn't remember it. I only have flashes of memory. I talked to people while I was there, and that was really the only thing. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anybody to know. I was so ashamed, and I was so, traumatized. I could not tell people. It took me 8 years to tell my mother. I just couldn't talk about it. I just couldn't. It's just something that I just buried within myself, and
And that's the worst thing to do, right? Is to bury it and not get it out.
It is the worst thing to do. And so I went to this group, and I met this group of ladies, and there is nothing better than being in a group situation for healing. And I don't care. I mean, you can go to talk therapy for 20 years. You can do various different things. But if you're going to do a therapy, do a group therapy, because when you hear other people's stories, that's the most healing thing that there can be. And that's why this book is like so hugely important, because it's the healing stories. It's the ones.
It's 26 different stories. It's not one.
Exactly. So you're gonna find something that you can identify with.
That's why as soon as you guys said that there was 26 authors and 26 chapters, it's like, that's genius, man, because people are going to relate to chapter 25 more than they are chapter 12, and some people are going to relate to chapter 17 more than they are chapter 5. You know, and the fact that you've got 26, you know, that there is its own what do you like, SelfCare Group. But it's just it's your own personal SelfCare group.
It's a lot of healing in this
in
book.
150 pages.
Sure.
You know, and Stephanie, you know, like I was saying before, you know, she brought us all together. I met her in a group. We share a mentor, Star Wolf. I did my women's group facilitating class with her and breath work, and that's another avenue.
Her name is Star Wolf.
Her name is Star Wolf. And
she's at the top of the food chain when it comes to this shaman stuff.
You know what, dude? She's
figured it all out.
Firecracker. She's awesome. She's from Kentucky.
Oh, no way.
She's from Kentucky. She lived out in California for a long time, and then she got a message from one of her guides and said, you need to move back. You know, so she went down to North Carolina. She lives outside of Asheville, and she bought a mountain down there, and she has, you know, her breathwork stuff there, but she travels to various places, as you know, many of us do travel. I go to Gathering the Shaman, and actually I'm going this next week to that, and you go and you stock up and you get some knowledge and whatever, and you might work with somebody else, or you might share yourself with somebody else. But Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 Agreements, I know a lot of people have heard of him. He's a Toltec healer, and so he trained Jeremy and Stephanie and another mentor of mine, Heather Ashamara, and so there's so many people that have around the world that have been helped by the books that they've written and the things that they've done. But they bring all these people together and then send us all out into the world to help in where we live.
Yeah.
And so I'm here. There's many people. There's a really healthy healing community here in Cincinnati. I mean, you can get Reiki done, you can get crystal healing done, but there's many remote places that don't have those things. And these ways of healing are more in depth and ways that you can actually, not ever be completely over it, but be better.
Yeah.
Right.
And operate in life. Yeah. And that's what happens. And this is why we're continuing to see these mass shootings, and we're seeing all of these things that happen, that people do these things and they're like, what's wrong? Every single one of them had a mental health story. Every single one of them
and didn't get out of it.
Yeah, and had a trauma story. And every single one of them was an unhealed trauma.
Yep.
So all of this unhealed trauma out there is what's causing a lot of things, bad that happen in the world.
For sure.
So that they need to be addressed. Are the way that we deal with healing, our Western things, here, take a pill. Take a pill doesn't help anybody.
No.
One of the worst things to get off is those antidepressants that everybody goes on.
Man.
And there's other ways. There are natural ways that you can heal. And I'm not saying everybody stop taking all your pills and don't listen to your doctor. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there are more natural ways. I'm saying that you, with your doctor, make decisions and maybe try to do something else and wean yourself off of these other things. Because if you can find something else that works for you, everything that we put into our bodies, again, cause disease. And chemicals, even though they're man-made and they're called medicine, if you listen to these commercials for them,
they're the worst.
they cost up to sudden death, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
oh, if you
what the
want
hell?
rectal bleeding and
Yeah,
you want
so-
your eyes to fall out, like, but we'll get rid of your cold. We'll
Yeah.
get rid of your
Right.
sniffles.
The
Right.
things that actually heal are the things that have been out there, crystals and, you know, colloidal silver and, you know, all of these, there's so many natural things out there that you can use for healing. They've been using since the caveman days, but Big Pharma keeps trying to shut it all down because they want people to buy their pills.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and they don't want people to actually know you can heal yourself with your mind. We are so strong.
Yeah.
We are such fantastic, you know, the way our
The
bodies
human body is something that we can't even reproduce yet, right? I mean, we can reproduce it by having kids, but we've got a full plumbing system. We've got stuff inside our body that will take food, pull out the nutrients, throw out the rest.
Right.
Like the human body is so insane. The fact that, you know, like we don't know the ins and outs of the human body yet. So like you know, self-healing is a huge part of the missing equation that everybody's having right now, because, you know, the easy route is, okay, I've got a headache, Advil. I've got heartburn, omeprazole. Like I've got, you know, depression, fucking whatever the depression one
Yeah.
is. And it's like, you know, you got these things. It's like, man, like self-care goes so much further than a medication, because that medication is going to lean you off one thing, but all you're doing is putting something in your body that's gonna off balance how your body's feeling.
Yeah.
It might tilt the scale another way in a different
Completely
part
way.
of your,
Well,
yeah, like
then you got to take pills to fix
To
the
take
side,
pills.
Yeah, for
Exactly,
the side effects.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
and it goes on, and again, you know, getting healthy, you know, eating healthy foods, and you know, stop eating the processed foods, and you know, fresh fruits and vegetables, and you know, to me, I'm really trying to stop eating meat. I know that's, you know, because our food's so contaminated here. That's why European people are so much healthier. Is because their food is not tainted. You
Man,
know?
the way that like being in clothing, the size of mediums shirts in the 80s and the size of medium shirts now are completely different, right? Like, and in the 80s, like the human body wasn't nearly as big as it is now. Like we've just become obese, and like the things that we're doing these days, and
Yeah.
like we're putting worse stuff into our bodies. We're not seeing what we're putting into it, because we're just going, hey, it's a fast-paced life. I need fast food real quick, and I'm guilty of it more than anybody. And I'm in that mode right now where it's like I want to start doing yoga. Like I don't want to go to the gym, and I don't want to like push a bunch of weights, but like I want to increase my breathing. I want to increase my lung capacity. Like I want to make sure that like internally everything's okay, so that I can be here another 20 or 30 years. You know what I mean? Longer than what I would if I keep going down this path of,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, the trajectory you're going, you want to just extend the life, make it so you're healthier along the way, make your life last longer so that you can, you know, put more goodness into the world. And with, like you said, the working out and meditation and whatnot, like with the mental aspect too, because I think that lengthens our life as well. When you're
100%.
with your mental state, as long as you're taking care of it and you're expressing your feelings, because, I mean, like we talked earlier, men don't have a tendency to express our feelings because it's kind of like it's the weirdest thing is like
Yeah.
it's you try and you say stuff and it's often like disregarded, and you're like, all right, well, I guess that's just the way it is, and you accept it as, you know, the bar. You accept that as just the
Yeah, or
that's-
being told not to
Yep.
cry,
Yep.
or not to show.
For
you know,
sure.
When you're little, you know,
Yep.
don't cry, boys, don't cry. You
Right.
know, that's the worst thing that you can do
Yeah.
to a child.
Two
is to
times a
do
week, bro. 2 times a week, I'm over in the corner like a baby. Kayla's
Right.
like, "What's happening this time?" I'm like,
Yep.
just don't worry about it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I want to go back really quickly. I want to talk about the nonprofit really quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
The Lotus Sanctuary.
So yes, I have these lovely shirts made
Oh,
by this
man.
awesome person,
Hey.
and yeah, so we did these for Giving Tuesday, and you know, we're continuing to throughout this year have a campaign of raising money, and so we're doing some shirts, and we're going to be doing some stuff. We're going to the Sprouts and Stouts Festival on the 7th that Trinity Episcopal Church is having. It's Sprouts and Stouts. It's a music festival. It's all day. It's Friday. You can buy plants and
Jesus Christ.
And Saturday.
Somebody text my wife.
Yeah.
Right.
What the-
Saturday. It's May the 7th, and you can buy plants, and then you can drink beer, and you can listen to music.
What else
it's
do you
like-
want? What else?
Exactly,
Yeah. What else?
Exactly.
What else can you get
can
from
get
that?
You can get your tomato plants. You can get flowers for your house and get your plant.
Yeah.
Get your stuff done. And then, and it's our annual fundraiser, and they do such a great job with it. But there'll be food, there'll be beer, there'll be wine, there'll be,
Plants.
I think the
Plants.
tillers. If you look on there,
Plants.
are the tillers playing this year? Because they usually play.
I was actually trying to message my wife real quick. Saturday, May 7th, Sprouts and
Stouts.
Stouts.
And that's at Trinity Episcopal Church on Madison and Covington, and that's where we also will be having our, some of our healing sessions there, and I'm also starting a women's group that's going to be coming up too. With COVID, we had to shut down. We're restarting, and so we're doing some fundraising, and we eventually, again, want to have a brick and mortar space, and it's going to take a lot to get there. Bingle Jim helped us out. We had a really nice fundraiser at the home game before Giving Tuesday in November, and he was supposed to be here, but apparently wires were crossed, and he's not here. And by the way, Bingo Jim, this is your shirt.
Oh, shit.
I was planning to give it to you, so for helping us out with that, and so I'll get that to you. But yeah, we've had a lot of people help us out, but we are looking for board members. We are looking for volunteer healers. We're looking for people to volunteer at our events, checking people in, or just, doing general things. We're looking for sponsors who want to sponsor whatever you want to give us, whether it's money, your time. If you want to, we're starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. So, and, with COVID, our first event's going to, back is going to be the 22nd of May. And, again, that's close to that day.
Yeah,
so,
right before your...
Yep. And so, again, it's one of those things where we want to really get it off the ground this time. So we'll be putting some events out there and some fundraisers, and hopefully, get some other people involved, because it takes a village to do something like this. But I feel like it's so important. It's so important to get real healing to people. I mean, people that wouldn't have access to be able to go and get a healing session. And we were just starting to grow and take off. We'd been meeting for about 6 months. And then COVID came, and we had to shut everything down, and and kind of go backwards. But moving forward again, hey, we need a building. If you got a building in Covington that's a historical brick building that you want to donate, let us know. We are
open
looking.
to
We're open to like whatever is going to come down the way. And I know that people out there care about this. They care about mental health. They care about people in this community. And that's what this is going to be about, is giving to the people that live right here. All of the proceeds that I make when I if you want a book and you want to hand sign one, I can get you one. I'm going to be putting those. I don't have them on my website yet, but I'll have them out there. And if you want to hand sign one and you want to donate to the Lotus Sanctuary, all proceeds from the book are going to go to the Lotus Sanctuary that I personally do. When you buy it from Amazon and all of that doesn't come to me. Only the ones that you get from me personally. So
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, but it is out on Amazon, and this was important to do, and I felt like I needed to, if I'm going to do this work, and my life purpose is to heal and help. I feel like this is a way to open a bridge to get people to say, hey, this is how I can get help, and
Absolutely,
this is
sure.
what I can do. And you don't have to go to California, and you don't have to go to Timbuktu to find somebody to get this help. There are a lot of people in the area that have donated time and that have come to do our healing sessions, which
you wouldn't even know. I mean, that's one of those things you would never know, because like it's not something that's like majorly publicized. Like we talked, like it's just not. This is part of our process of getting some content out there that tells people about this interview of sorts. But like, there's nowhere that no one's advertising this, that there are people that are able to help and able to heal. It's just, it's kind of lost in
well, we have
the
a
world,
Facebook page. If you want to know when our events are,
please
go
tell
to
us.
that. I mean, I have a website that I'm working on. It's not fully functional, but it'll be up to when I have one for my for-profit business, which we'll be giving things back to that. It's called Emergence Wellness Oasis. I do have a website for that, and there'll be a page for the nonprofit on there. Eventually, it's just time to sit down and do it. And that's the other thing. It's like, hey, if you are a student, you want to come be my intern and help do ground up, do, a nonprofit and be involved in creating something, if you're in social media or business or social work or, business, any of those kind of areas, and you want an internship, get a hold of me. I'd love to have you come. I, get school credit for it or whatever. And eventually we hope to have stipends, for interns. But it'd be a great way for somebody who really wants to do this kind of work or wants to get, that on their resume of like, hey, I helped start a nonprofit. And,
for sure.
Or people that just want to help. Just get in touch with me. I'm going to be doing some collaborative things. There is a company in Covington that opened up recently. It's called Thrive. And what they do is they teach women's self-defense. And they have some other trauma-informed things that go on there. But they haven't been open super long. In the last year or so, they opened, and they have great programming there. I'm going to be teaching warrior goddess training. That's a women's empowerment. It's not necessarily about trauma, but it's about just women having a voice in the world. And, women are so domesticated to be the nurturer and take care of everybody else that we don't take care of ourselves. And when your well's empty, you don't have anything to give. So warrior goddess training is all about having that voice and putting it out there. So I'm going to be working with Thrive. Also, I'm going to be teaching meditation with a couple of groups. I've made a connection with Maddie's House. I'm going to be going June 11th to do training, volunteer training with them. And hopefully I'll be teaching meditation and perhaps chakra balancing, classes or workshops with them. Also, the veterans group, I don't know exactly. I know it's the VA, but it's the office that's in Norwood.
Okay.
I have a connection. I'm going to be teaching some meditation with those guys. If you're interested in anything that we're doing, we do have on Facebook, we have a group called the group Gender Inclusive, and that's for anybody. And then we have one that's just for women. So, because sometimes women, especially
of course,
around domestic violence,
they want to be around women. They don't want to talk about it in front of guys.
Right. But we do have a co-ed group, so there is something there for everybody. If you're interested in either of those, go out and join those. Watch our Facebook for events that are coming up, because we're going to start our programming back up. And if you want to get involved or if you want to help in any way, just reach out. All my information's there to reach out to me. You can message me directly through the Lotus Sanctuary on Facebook.
Awesome. So the Lotus Sanctuary is where to get a hold of you on Facebook.
Yeah. So let me show. I was going to show this really quick.
That is awesome. So that
really is awesome.
That's the.
This is a painting.
And that's the painting that we used to actually create all the shirts with.
Yes, and this was from a lady. Her name is Becky Neft. She is a very talented artist, and literally
very talented. Those mountains behind it are insane. How they just kind of fade.
Those are actually what is the mountain range? The Appalachian
Mountains.
Yeah. Appalachian Mountains, whatever, of Kentucky and I guess it'd be like North Carolina that goes through there. And so I had a picture of that, and so she put that in the background. It was just, but this, the lotus is a very special, the symbology in it. It's lotus comes up through the mud and the muck, out of the dirt, through the water, and then blooms on the other side. And that's basically what we want to help people do is
That's a great analogy. I printed the clothes, and I never put two and two together, because I never knew what a lotus flower did.
This is a journal. So when we get people in the programming, we're going to have a journal thing that they're going to do, and this is all about and it says, untangle your mind and heart once and for all, a journaling practice for deep discovery and lasting peace. So this is part of the programming that we're going to do. There's also a book called Dragon Tree, and that's what I do, my life coaching. So we're going to have free life coaching, and again, just various programming once we get things up and going. It's just that process of the starting.
You're doing a lot of stuff for free, honey.
Yes.
You got there's a lot of stuff on your plate, and it's all nonprofit, and it's all free, and it's taking up a lot of your time.
It's going to be free for survivors. You can do a
And
love
that's
a
what I
love
was gonna say.
donation, but we are going to have programming through Emergence Wellness Oasis. I'm going to be teaching meditation classes. I'm going to be teaching chakra balancing classes, and some portions of what happens in the for-profit business will go over to the nonprofit.
Well, I mean,
but
that's
it'll
great.
Still be
That's what I was trying to get at. Is like how are you funding all of this? And is it something where people can come to you and they can take a class?
We did Bingle Jim's tailgate before the roar. We did a tailgate and raised $1,500. Other than that, it's pretty much been me.
Oh, wow.
I've put a lot of money into it. I put money into my own training and traveling to these places to do the various things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm opening it up, putting it out there. If you want to help me, this is how you can help me.
For sure.
Hey, if you want to give $10, if you want to go on and get a keychain or a T-shirt, because we're going to have those, and eventually we're going to do with this. I'm going to have prints made.
Okay.
So that you can, in various sizes and various kind of finishes, because you can get the finish where it's like almost like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing, some of those where people can, if they wanted to buy that, then that's a thing. But again, throughout the year, we want to have like a big annual thing. Not sure on the timing. We're thinking February, but all of that's going to happen with, how things progress and how things go this year. This year's going to be a building year. Future programming, we're planning to actually do trauma retreats where people can come and spend,
a week in Arizona out there climbing the mountains, hanging out with you guys.
I'm actually going to start closer to home. Red River Gorge is the home. It's the home of our diocesan gathering place. It's called the Cathedral Domain.
Okay.
If you're looking for a great camp experience for your kids, they have all kinds of stuff. If you want to be a camp counselor, I'm sure they probably still need some. So I've been going there since I was in second grade, and it's near and dear to my heart, and it changed me as a person. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I hadn't gone to those camps.
No kidding.
And grew up. And Kevin Richardson from the Backstreet Boys grew up there. If you watch his story, that the movie that they made, they go to the cathedral, and his dad died there. His dad died of cancer, and anybody that's ever been on that mountain, any kid that's ever been there, it's changed their whole entire life.
Yeah.
Just the love and what you experience there. But I want to I'll have them there. It's not that I won't eventually maybe go to Teo or other places, but I will probably start there, just do like a 2 to 4 day experience and eventually grow into like a week of trauma camp. And the thing is about it, it's going to be a place where people can go and start to reclaim their lives and to say, okay, I have never dealt with this. I want to help myself. I want to, and then, you don't have to tell anybody. You sign up, you come. Nobody knows who's there. Nobody knows, it's your information, because a lot of times people are they don't want to put it out there that they're doing something like that, So we'll, people's anonymity and things like that, we try to be responsive of that, even in the things we do locally. If people aren't, we're not going to put you out as a poster child. This person came and they got, whatever. We just try to be very careful of that. It's a thing that we do also in Take Back the Night. We don't, when we show the event, we try to show pictures from the back. It shows the back of people's heads, not, unless people say, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. This is something that, happened to me, this long ago, and I'm putting myself out there.
You have to think about all that stuff when you're advertising it, taking those photos. You have to take every single person's story into consideration.
Let me tell you what, doing this, putting my story, writing this down. First of all, writing my story.
Yeah, it's got to be so heartbreaking and liberating at the same time.
Yes, it was. It's been an experience. It's been a growing experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But still, some of my family, some of my friends don't know these things about me. Have never heard my story, don't know, and now it's out there for the whole entire world to see it and read it and be in that depth. And what's been really funny is even people close to me, people that I know that have gotten a copy of the book and have read it, haven't talked to me about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm willing to write it and I'm willing to put it out there,
I want to hear your thoughts.
I want to know it was a piece of shit and I really didn't like it. Whatever.
Right.
I would like to hear.
Give me the tea.
The tea. The tea that's a new thing, isn't it? The tea.
Yeah, it's like it's like the crucial information.
Yes, exactly. Well, it was in what was that in recently? The tea. Oh my gosh, it was on a show, and I'd never heard somebody say the tea. Give me the tea. And I'm going, what are they talking about? And they're talking about the juice. They're talking about the good part of the story. So, anywho,
I like that analogy.
Yeah, yeah.
Solid.
It was on something the other day. I saw it. And I'd never heard the expression before, but I think it's I kind of dig it.
For sure.
But you know, I am okay with talking about it. And if somebody wants to talk to me, because I have a friend that said, well, I don't have time to talk to you about it right now, but I really want to talk about your story. And she goes, I'm going to send you an email, and then we can talk after that, because I just have some questions, and I thought, okay, but like literally, not that many people that I know have responded back, and it's like, I wrote a book and nobody's talked about it. It's like, okay, fine.
They probably don't know how to approach you.
Exactly.
Just
They may not
because
know how to
like they don't like it was a situation where you were sexually abused. At 18 years ago, is that where it's coming out to?
Yeah, 2004.
It's like one of those, like, oh shit, like I've known her for so long, and I've flirted with her, had conversations with her, and I never knew that she had this experience, So it's like one of those things where like you don't know how to react to it, but the fact that, like you're saying, I put it out there, like it's in black and white now, it's in print, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, and
that's the
okay.
big thing.
Yeah.
That's the big thing about getting over it and becoming better and being that self-care is being able to talk about it and get to the point where that had to be super tough for you to actually put that on the paper and say, hey, this is what I want everybody that knows me and doesn't know me to know about me.
Right. Well, and the way I handle it, I mean, I don't go into it, and most of the people in here, the trauma stories that are told, aren't in super graphic detail. I mean, there's a couple of them that get kind of nitty gritty, but I don't go into a lot of detail about that. I go into what happened to me.
100%.
What was my experience as this is happening to me, and I'm going in and like what my thoughts were and how. This is just so surreal.
That's a good writer. You don't have to dwell on what happened. Let's talk about how I turned that milk into butter.
And that's the other part of it. I can't, because I don't remember.
Right.
I was Mickey'd. I don't have a whole lot of memory of what happened to me.
Man, that's
I just
crazy.
know it happened to me.
Yeah.
And so the knowing that it happened to me again. Was something that I had to deal with, and I did a regression with somebody, and that's where you kind of go back into, and you can do this. This is another way of healing child trauma, is having a regression. You can do this with a professional, either somebody that does hypnotherapy or somebody that does healing work that knows how to do regression work.
And pulls out thoughts that you don't remember.
Yeah, you go into a state, and you can find out as much as you're comfortable knowing or not knowing.
I was going to say, are you happy you did that, or would you rather not know any of it?
Because it was a blank space,
and
there were things that I needed to know, and the person that I was with was very tender with me and was able to, she let me ask what I wanted to know.
Okay.
She didn't just tell me.
Got you.
And I asked, and I extrapolated what I needed to know, that I was able to live with it,
Okay.
And be okay with it and walk around, and again, it took me a long time, and I was in group for a couple years, and I went through a thing. I did this whole regression thing, which I haven't talked about this, and I didn't talk about it in the book either. I did a thing where, as I was going through the work with this, learning the things that I learned, learning what trauma response is, learning how the ways that what I'm doing and how I'm moving in the world is different now, and it has been affected. And I started, I wouldn't go outside my house after dark. And I wasn't attacked on the street, but if it got dark and I needed to take my trash out, I would just take my trash to the dumpster the next day. I went through this period of I was staying in my house, I got really depressed, and these are the things that happen when you start digging into the work and you start doing it, and you don't have the tools. You don't
realize that you're digging yourself into that hole until I was the same way. Didn't realize I had to put blackout curtains on my windows because of the eye. It was just too bright, and before you knew it, I dug myself so deep into that dark hole that I contemplated suicide in 2016. And that was one of those things where it's you can't get to that type of place, man.
And see,
especially
that's
I
the
did it
biggest
to myself.
Message. Yeah, that's the biggest message out there. Don't stay in that that hole. Don't
Right.
stay, and that's what it feels like. It feels like being in a hole and to crawl out of it. And there are ways. There are people that care, and there are people that will help you. And talk to somebody at a church, or talk to a friend. Go to Women Helping Women if it has to do with domestic violence or sexual abuse or any of that. Go to if you're in the military, go to the VA, see what programming there are programs out there for various kinds of things. But again, I feel like we're going to fill a big thing in, because there's not a lot for various different types of trauma. There's a friend of mine who I know she was attacked. She wasn't beaten. Mm-hmm. She wasn't raped. It wasn't a person that she was dating. It was somebody she didn't know. She was knocked down. She was threatened with, I think, a knife and possibly a gun. I can't remember. But her wallet was taken and all that. So she was basically mugged. Mm-hmm. But she has night terrors still. And she, if you don't go and go to a situation where you can talk this out with people and get to that place of healing in some way, mm-hmm. Or go to a healer, because sometimes people don't want to talk about it. I can put somebody on a table and do a healing on them, and they can let go of stuff. I don't know what it is. We never talked about it, and they walk out and they feel better.
Right.
And sometimes that's the beauty of doing holistic healing, is you don't even have to know what it is. You don't have to relive the trauma and be traumatized again. You can just do this work, and you're able to manage yourself and get back some of yourself, and then moving on it, and you don't have to go back there.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
So it's wild. You mentioned 2016 is like when my situation went through, and took me forever to like let people come into my house. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. Like I was just like I was always looking out the blinds to see if they were popping up, and it was just obviously a relationship that I went through. But like I was so traumatized. I did not want people to come in. When I came in, I would I'd like set a time, and once it was done, I was like, all right, gotta like get out of my, like, we have to cut this off. And it's just so strange that it was that trauma that was causing me to put like time limits on things, and I still have time limits on stuff. Like I still do it to this day, mm-hmm. but it was all caused because of something that had nothing to do with time limits. I just knew if I make this last too long, that person might come back around and see that I'm doing something. Even though it was my place of living, it's wild to even think that it was indirectly affecting it.
That's a trauma response, and sometimes you don't know what those are.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what they were until I went to group and I found out.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow, I do that. Oh shoot, I do that too. And it's like, it's really eye-opening, because you don't even realize that what those things are, and the way that affects your life. And again, like you don't want it to spill out to your children, to your spouse, to your relationships, your family. You don't want the bad to be the thing that goes out. You want to be able to live balanced and whatever. And it's, I work on it all the day. It's not like, this many years has gone by and all of a sudden whatever. I've worked on it very hard, and I have gotten to a place where I know how to handle myself, and I know when I need help, and I know when to reach out to somebody else. If I can't do it for myself, I'll reach out to another healer and say, I need to do X, and then, but I try to take care of myself.
Right.
And that's the place that people can get to. And again, like you were talking about, a lot of people don't know what we're talking about shamanism, we're talking about crystal healing, we're talking about sound healing. People don't know what these things are, but here in Cincinnati, again, there's lots of healers that do a lot of things.
Right.
If you're not interested in, going to a support group, or you just want to go get a healing, there's a lot of people out there that are able to help you, and reach out but do it. Don't sit in that place of being in that hole or in that darkness, and not because it is going to affect you. It's going to affect your family.
It's going to get darker and darker, man.
Exactly.
It's going to get darker and darker. So out of the 26 people that were picked to be in this magazine, I got a couple questions. One, how were you picked to be one of the 26 out of it? Did you already have a connection with Stephanie?
Stephanie and I had met because the Freedom Folk do healing journeys. They take people on these, and they do a thing that we did in our author's journey, which is basically what a Toltec initiate does. This is what all of the dreamers that work with Don Miguel Ruiz have done, is they go And they go through the Avenue of the Dead and Teotihuacan, and in each plaza there's a thing that you do. You work on the agreements that you've made. You work on turning things around, your core belief system. A lot of healing methods, whether it's breath work or theta healing or deep meditation. There's all these different various things, and they work on that core belief system and because what you believe underneath, not your conscious belief, but your subconscious belief, is how you act and move in the world. And so these are the things that uncovering these things and healing those parts of you. And so each one of us was connected to Stephanie somehow. She's the lead author, and she's the one that invited each person. But all of these people, Angela Bard, Eva Enright, Christine Falcon Diagle, Mara Finn, Robin Friend, Sonia Glad, Tina Green, Emily Greaves, Delia Griffith, Kathy Gildy, Annie Mark, Carly Matmore, Tiffany McBride, Michelle McFarland, John Mercedes, Lisa Newton, Karen Ann Scott, Dr. Ruth Souther, Julian Santini, and Atlantis Wolf, who is also
that's only 25. There's one more name you got to read off that.
Pamela Johnson.
There it is.
Yeah.
I was waiting to cheer when I heard it.
Right.
And Stephanie Arbina Jones and Jeremy Pager. Each one of us, we came together. We had this incredible bonding experience. We did this on our first night there, and this is a thing that you do. This is a red thread, and we passed it around the room, and we tied it, and then we cut ourselves from each other. And we're all connected. I still have mine on. I haven't taken it off yet. And sometimes you let it wear off, and then I'm planning to braid mine and put it on my altar and keep it there. And sometimes I might wear it again when I want to feel connected, but I just haven't had the heart to take it off just yet. It's just still in my heart. Our book came out on the 6th, and it's still just like so new, and things are still happening. I'm going to be doing book signings, and we're having a book tour kind of like around the country in various
You've got
parts.
a family, man. You've got an entire
oh my gosh.
family.
You have no idea. We talk all the time.
That's incredible.
That's
the key to self-love, right? Is finding like-minded people, and then sharing stories and you relating to each other, and sharing these stories alone are gonna help heal you and her, or you and him, or him and her.
Stephanie and Jeremy have some things coming up. They're taking a group to Peru. And they're going back to Teo, and they teach a thing called the Wheel of Transformation. That's their classes and courses. But all of the people that I just named are a healer in their own right. Their information is in the book. You can look them up. Read their chapter and see if you connect with them in some way. And like Ruth and Carly and some of those gals, they only live about 4 hours. They're in Springfield, Illinois. And then there's Stephanie and Jeremy are in Nashville. And
that was my second question: is so out of the 26, where's everybody at? You're the closest one? You're the only one in Kentucky?
I'm the only one in Kentucky. There is probably Jeremy and Stephanie, or Carly and Ruthie, and those group of girls in Springfield are the closest to us here. But everybody does stuff, since COVID, we all know everything's done online. But they have classes. They have online classes. They do breath work online. If you're interested in that, Star Wolf does stuff all the time. But I met Stephanie through, we both were mentored by Star Wolf. And so I had commented on another journey of hers. And so I was considering going. And then we struck up a friendship, and then we started talking. And then she just had a hit. She goes, "You need to do this other thing that we're doing." And she told me about it. She sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God. And I'd been thinking, I've been talking about writing a book for 8 years. And I thought to myself, well, when I do it, who's going to read my book? Why would they read my book? I'm not anybody. And then this came. It's like, again,
it's genius. It's so genius.
It's a thing that I had put out in the universe. It's like, I want, and here it comes, this invitation. Well, why don't you come on this journey with us? And it was so out of the blue, but all of us are in some way connected to either Stephanie Urbina Jones or Laura DeFranco, who is our publisher at Brave Healer Productions. If you're interested in writing, Laura has writing workshops all the time. Go to Brave Healer Productions. She has stuff. Once a month, she has a thing for various writers, and she does these kind of collective books. I think they've done 20 or 30 of them.
Oh, wow.
She started this business. Her story's fascinating, too. She started this business during COVID. Like, she was like,
Holy cow.
yeah, what can I do? And started doing this. And so they started putting these books out. And there's a bunch of really, I mean, there's Sacred Spaces. Sacred Spaces got put in the Oscar swag bags, I believe. The Oscars or the Grammys, one of those, just recently. And so, so these books are making it out there. And these, if you want to know about various types of healing, if you want to know how to connect with people that are doing this work, here I'm doing the Lotus Sanctuary, but I am also going to be doing Heather Eshamara's Warrior Goddess training workshops, and that's all about women's empowerment and about having a voice and how to act and operate in the world in a way that you're not in the patriarchal oh, the women do this and you all you do is do this stuff over here.
Mm-hmm.
No, you are a person and you have a voice, and you should be able to be in your skin and be comfortable and not, give your whole self away. So it's all about how to, empowering yourself as a female and how to act and operate in this world.
Absolutely. All right. So if there's people listening right now that are females that are listening that want to contact you, but they don't want they want the to be anonymous, right? They don't want to just comment on below here and say, hey, I went through some trauma, can you help me? How does anybody that's listening right now contact you directly where there's no
on our
static?
Facebook page, the Lotus Sanctuary email is on there.
Okay.
It's Lotus Sanctuary org@gmail.com. They can send an email, and that'll come directly to me.
Okay.
And or they can, if they want a message on there, if they're comfortable with that, sending a message through Facebook, they can do that. But yeah, send me an email, and I'd be happy to talk through anything. Or there's so much programming out there. The Ion Center, which used to be Women's Crisis Center here in Covington, if you're on the Kentucky side, if you are a survivor of sexual assault or domestic violence or any kind of I guess they call it gender-based violence, and this is not just women, it's men and boys. It's 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 boys have some sort of sexual experience by the time they come to adulthood. That's
right.
That's the statistic now. There's so much unreported.
It's insane.
It is insane. And with COVID, people have been locked up with their abusers sometimes,
Yeah.
and that,
Right.
so it's the shelters and all of this stuff. It's just grown exponentially, but I think it's maybe made some of it come out of the closet too. There's a girl that I know here in Cincinnati. She grew up here, and she's in my age group, in her 50s, and she and her whole entire family were abused by their father.
Oh, wow.
And they even, like, the school, I guess the school knew, and finally Women Helping Women were the ones that kind of cracked it open. But, it's like, and there were 6 of them. And he never went to jail.
Man.
And this happened right, it's like I said, I have stories.
How do you sabotage your own family, bro? Like,
Right.
that blows my mind.
But it happened. And then
It happens
and that's
way
like,
more than we realize.
A lot of, like a friend of mine that was in a group that I was in, and he's still here in Cincinnati, her best friend's grandfather, who was home a lot when the girls were there, and she was like, 10 years old.
I've got a friend that the same thing with the grandfather. It's like,
yeah,
Jesus
or great
Christ,
uncle,
man.
or friend of the family, or it most of the time it's somebody like that. It's
Yep.
the neighbor that's it's you don't, and people are threatened not to tell,
Right.
or groomed not to tell, given money, given gifts, given whatever, not to tell.
Right.
So, and kids,
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations with your children
It
from when they're really small. Have conversations about inappropriate touching. Have conversations about all of these things, because these kids need to be protected.
Right.
You know, and believe them when someone tells you, I don't care how old they are, that something's happened. Believe them.
Right.
You know, and that's
Yeah.
the worst thing in the world is why people don't tell is because they're not believed.
Yeah.
Right.
No one believes
You
you,
know?
right? 100%.
And that just puts you even in a worse position where, like, okay, this happened to me, and nobody believes me. So that puts you into more of a depressive state, which is even harder to go.
Right. Then
to-
you
to
suppress
get
it
out
more.
of.
You suppress it even more. Then you're like not telling anybody because you're like, the first time no one believed me. Why would they even believe me?
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
in my case, I got in trouble. My job was trying to write me up for the situation. I was like, I wasn't here because of this happened, and they're like, well, you should have been here. I'm like, well, I was dealing with something. I want to go in detail, and they didn't want to hear details. They were just like, and then they started noticing some markings on me, and I was just like, oh, what's going on? I was like, yeah, well, now you're hearing me because you're seeing something. But like
Right.
when you were saying it to them, they're like, I don't want to hear it. You got a job to do. Focus on that.
Yeah.
And you're just, well, where do you go from here? I guess, you know what I mean? And that's also when I found out Martin Luther King Day, the police station wasn't open. It happened on that day. So like, it's just one of the instances, but like found out it wasn't open then to the public. All right, well, good to know. So you just learn things through situations. Yeah.
Really?
Really. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That-
Martin Luther King Day was not open to the public. hmm
Interesting.
Interesting in fact, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that they ever, like the hospital, I didn't know that ever.
It was not open. I was not. There was no sanctuary there. There was no relief. It was just like, all right, I guess I'm gonna, deal with it.
Call you tomorrow.
Yeah, right. I guess I'm out of luck. Yeah. So it was.
And it's
it
so
was
funny
yeah.
that you brought it up, and that's how I got to the Lotus Sanctuary, was, a place of sanctuary, a place that's safe. And, there were girls that I was in group with, and they weren't safe in their own homes. Like, one, her dad was kind of, abusive to the mom and her, and it was really crazy because she was like late 30s, early 40s, and this girl was raped in college at UC and became a lost person. She went to all these groups, she went to all of these things, this thing happened to her. Even her own father at that time didn't believe her. And so she literally went down the rabbit hole, and like she never finished school. She ended, it just, all these things happened to her. And like her whole life after that was just not, and I thought, and she would make lunch plans or plans with people or whatever, or went to all these support groups because she didn't have a safe place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was my thing, is I want there to be a place that people can just go and be, a lot like the Maddie's House model. Mr. Raleigh, and who's the newscaster, he's the weather guy on Channel 9. His daughter, Maddie, committed suicide a couple years ago, and they created this safe place because she would say, I want to go and I want to be where people are who are like me.
Oh, wow.
She couldn't go hang out with kids her age, at the bar, and she couldn't go, be with her old friend group because they were all still smoking and drinking and doing
Right.
stuff, and and so she was, been through rehab and was trying to, and so they've created this space, and that's why it's so important, near and dear to my heart, that I want to work with young people, because this is a lot of unhealed trauma. A lot of people end up in addiction. A lot of people end up, in alcoholism and all of these things because they're trying to mask that trauma, that
Right.
hurt. And so that's
Yeah.
why this is where the help needs to be, and our kids are our future, and it's so important to help somebody. Not that it's not important to help somebody that's later in life, but if you can turn a child's life around, you can make all that difference for them.
Mhm.
Because I know this girl, from the time that she was 18, 19 years old, her whole life then became about going to groups and going to and doing all this stuff, and she never found any resolution. She had been getting therapy through the agency for so long. It's like it's supposed to be like a year or so, a couple years thing, and then you get it. But she had her own therapist. She would go there, she would go to all these groups, she did codependence, she did all this stuff because she wasn't safe to be in her own home. And that was the bottom line.
Wow.
So and two, you sometimes when you're in that tender state, you want to be in a place where people understand at least somewhat what you've been through and what you're experiencing and how hard it is, just to get out of bed, just to get up and shower is like a monumental thing for somebody that's in a deep depression or in a place of, that their anxiety is overwhelming.
For sure. And, and one of those things, man, it's like you got to make sure that, you're not alone. Like you may feel alone and you may feel like there's nobody there, but, you're right here in Cincinnati. Like you've been through it, you're telling your story, you're telling people literally if you have problems, like here's my email, call me, get a hold of me. Like, I'll talk to you. I'll get you in a situation where that's going to make you, put you out there and make you feel better. So, I can't express on how proud I am of you, from where you've been to where you are now. I've known you for well over a decade now, and to see the person that you become after everything that's happened to you, it's really amazing to see the person that you become and how you took all that hurt that happened to you, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna turn that hurt into love, and I'm gonna make sure that the hurt that happened to me turns into love for 12 other people. And I can tell that's where you're headed with this whole thing. Like, whatever happened to you 18 years ago has really turned you into the person that you're going to be for the next 40 or 50 years. And you're not that vulnerable person you were 18 years ago. Now you're strong, you're independent, you've got motivation, you've got something behind you that's this fire that's going to push you further along. And I'm so proud to see the person that you've turned yourself into, instead of what happens to 99% of the abused. 99% of the abused can't deal with it, can't go with it, and can't get themselves out of that. I was talking earlier about churning cream into butter. You're just a mouse that's running around this cream in a little cup. You're trying to get out of there, and half the mice will die in that cream, but the other ones are going to run so much in there that they're going to turn it into something that you can actually stand on and crawl out of. So it's amazing to see where you are now with the book coming out just a month ago, 2 months ago?
No, just the 6th of this month. It
just
came
out. So
Yeah.
it just came out. So I can't wait to see where you are 12 months from now, because now that your story's told, you've got all that off your chest. So now it's like, okay, now I'm in a new chapter of my life. Now I'm past mourning. I'm past the feeling sorry for myself. Now I'm to the point where I want to help others, and I want to make sure that other people can get out of that situation that I was in years ago. And like I love you for being that person, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. And I'm put my hand on my heart. These hearts are it's obsidian hearts, and all of us have one. All of us from our experience, and I wear it a lot, and it just reminds me. It's a daily reminder that I want to put my heart out first. I want to put my heart out there, and if I can help somebody, if I help one person, it's been worth it. It's been worth it to do what I've done.
I'm sure you've helped hundreds already off of the book, and you haven't even realized it.
Right.
There's more people that go through your situation than you realize, because most people don't talk about it, like Andrew said. Mm-hmm. But when you do talk about it, people get to chapter 25 and they go, "Wow, this is me. I relate to this." And by chapter 26, the book's over. Now they've got a new self-love or self-care that they didn't know about, and that was because they heard your story that they would have never have heard before, because most people don't talk about the trauma that happened to them and then how to get out of that situation, man. So it's amazing for you to even be able to put what happened to you into words, let alone be a catalyst for other people. So I'm impressed. I'm very thankful.
I was going to use the word closure, but I don't even know if that's appropriate. I mean, closure is one of those things that people try to look for, try to close the chapter on their own story and to move on. But some things are ongoing for the rest of your life, so there's never really closure. You're just kind of you're maintaining what you're dealing with, whatever. Well, but I mean, having a book like this, there can be a sense of starting the process to find that closure. You're like, all right, I can I can move forward with my next relationship or my next friendship or my next, whatever their trauma, stems from. But
This is a thing that we say in group. People that have trauma, if you saw a person walking down the street that had a gunshot, had a gun wound, and they're bleeding and all this, and the blood's coming out and whatever, what would you do? Would
You'd
you
help them.
Would you pass them, or would you keep going and whatever? People that have trauma are walking around and they have a wound that nobody can see.
yeah,
But it's bleeding, it's gaping, it's doing whatever it's doing, and you.
It's killing them inside.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody sees it. Nobody knows it's there. So basically, what happens is when you go through these experiences and you learn how to, take care of yourself, or you go to a healer and you get whatever it is, the process that you find that you can get. It's basically just healing that wound. So you're not one of the walking around, bleeding, wounded.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got a but it's a scar now, and it's healed over. And so that is a closure. That is a way that you are, able to move in the world in a different way, and you don't bleed all over everybody else.
Yeah.
And you don't, crap all over everybody else, and you don't, whatever how because
Right.
it's going to come out of you in a negative way. It doesn't matter how you try to. Things are going to come out some way.
sure.
Whether
sure.
it becomes a disease in your body, whether you damage your children, however that is, that wound, and again, all of the things that we see, especially with kids and the things that we see out there right now, it comes from that person being hurt by somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
It's a chain thing, and we've got to stop the silence about it. If everybody would just stop and be able to talk about it, and this is what's happening, and deal with it, we could break the cycle, and
Yeah.
we could stop, sexual assault, domestic violence. We could stop that in this generation. But it's not going to stop as long as people are willing.
Quiet about it.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
aren't willing to talk about it. People aren't willing to, have it on their podcast and have me come and talk about
true.
this book and how. And this book is amazing. And again, there are some things in it that may be touchy for people, but kind of peruse over that chapter and go to something else. But you're gonna find stuff. Jeremy's chapter, he writes about self-doubt. I mean, doubt can kill you. It can
Oh,
keep you
yeah.
from, achieving what you want in life. And
Yeah.
and you sit there with that unworthiness and that feeling of like, oh,
I'm not
I
good
can't. Yeah, I'm
enough.
not good enough. I can't do this. That guy that came up to me on Fountain Square and was selling me T-shirts. And I'm thinking, what is this Fruit Loop doing?
Yep.
I mean, when we were friends, we knew each other before that even, but it's like, you talk about impressive. I mean, you've been through a lot too, and, you've done it too. And look at this, man. I'm sitting here in your store. And, I bought T-shirts from you and hats from you from on Fountain Square out of a backpack.
Oh yeah.
It's like we both have grown, and I'm just so happy to, have you make my shirts, and they're beautiful. These are gorgeous shirts, people. Buy them. And be able to do that, and like, let's do something good in this community, and that's what it takes, is all of us working together and helping each other and
Absolutely.
giving back and just finding that way of, this is our community, and are we going to make a stand and do something? Or are we going to, just have another generation of mass shootings and all these other things occurring because people are not getting the help that they need.
Right. We got to stop being quiet, man.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, that self-love starts with talking about what happened and opening up about it and getting it off your chest. And that's one of the big things about guys is like we don't talk about our feelings. We don't get stuff off our chest. Like, if something happens to us, we're like every other man, you're supposed to swallow that shit and fucking put it down in here and just leave it there. And just
Right.
And
Let
then,
it fester.
yeah, man. But that's not, and that's how 90% of men are, but that's also a very negative thing that'll tear you apart, man. Is like,
Yeah.
it'll break your soul
and men
and you won't
don't
even
talk to
realize it.
people. Women will call a friend and talk to a friend, or like,
Oh man, I'll tell my buddies I'm doing great, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing great.
I talked to my dog. I talked to my dog. I got a dog out of my situation, so I have a lasting, living, breathing thing that came from that situation. I still have her to this day. But
You need to sage that dog.
she's my safety blanket. she's a great thing. I have 3 dogs, but she is one that she knows, she's seen it. She's got all the
I'm just teasing.
yeah, no, she doesn't. She is definitely a lifesaver for sure.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, people do that and they sit in the energy of it. Like, if something happens and you're staying in the place where it happened, sage it, rearrange the furniture, paint it, make it your own.
I like that. I like sage it.
Yeah, sage, seriously. Or, well, Palo Santo is even more clearing. But you want to get away because that negative energy, it gets enclosed. Wash clothes, or don't how some people keep a jacket and they won't wash it for no, don't do those kinds of things. Put it outside if it's something that you can't wash. But again, clearing out that energy, because that energy stores in the body, it stores in things.
It weird?
Yeah.
Everything has a thing that it puts out a frequency.
Sure,
it does,
everything.
Man.
And that's how crystals and stones work, is through frequency. It's what they put out that alters it and makes that balance. But things that you have, if you have that person's stuff, throw it out or donate it. Take it to a shelter. Take it to the women's shelter.
Get it out of my house. Yeah, get that excess shit out of here.
Bad juju.
Except for the dog. Keep the dog.
Yeah.
The dog, no, she's staying.
Give the dog a bath. And
yeah, she's got plenty of baths. Trust me, she's good. She's just a little. It was just a whole situation, and I was left with a dog after it was all said and done.
But you got a dog to love on.
Yeah, no, she's the best thing. She's the best. She's my she's like. Imagine Eeyore in dog form. She's just chill. She just hangs out. She could sit right next to me for hours and not even move. And I'm just like, oh, what's up? What's up, girl? What are you doing? And she'll just look at you and
I just want to say thank you to both of you guys for having me on here
and
for opening your hearts and talking to me so freely about, each of you had gone through a trauma of sort. And that's the thing. Every person out there has something that they probably haven't dealt with, and all of this book is saying, Shaman Heart is saying, what is it that's holding you back in life? Because don't let these things, or these unresolved feelings, or these feelings of unworthiness, or whatever the thing is for you, keep you
self-doubt.
Yeah,
it was a lot of it was self-doubt for me.
You need to read Jeremy's chapter. I think it's chapter 5. Yeah, but literally, and then they talk about a way to heal it, and then if you want to do something past that, but go through and look at something that might get it can help you today.
Can't wait.
Yeah, that you don't.
So how do we give one of these Kindles away? One of the Kindle books away online? Can we do something maybe where it's like 1 through 100? That's what we did last time, right? Like you pick a number 1 through 100. And whoever comments below with the closest number gets a free Kindle.
Okay, we'll do one that way.
Give one out on May 23rd.
She's got a better idea.
Yeah.
May 23rd, maybe.
Well, what I was going to say is if whoever gets a shirt or something like that.
Oh, just purchase a shirt.
Yep.
Okay, so we can have a link below for the T-shirts.
And if we get a bunch of people, we can draw names.
Yeah.
But I have 3. I can give away 3.
There we go. So you buy the first 3 people to buy a T-shirt, get the free Kindle version.
Well, let's give one away though.
Okay.
Let's just give one away. If you put, I like the number thing, or whatever, and then we'll put, everybody that, if people, more than one person, gets a shirt or whatever, then we can put a name in a hat and the name's in, and we'll draw it out.
That'll work.
Yep.
I think I was completely wrong last week, but I think I've got the number out of 1 through 100. I think I know the number that you're going to pick, and I'm not going to say it now. Obviously, we'll wait till we get offline, and then we'll write it down. So whoever comments below and gets closest to it will win the Kindle version of your book. But all right, so one more time, Lotus Sanctuary ORG was the email. ORG@gmail.com. Yeah, that's
the email.
So that will be the website then, is lotussanctuary.org.
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't gotten that far. I have Emergence Wellness Oasis. That's why I didn't bring it up, because it's my for-profit business that I have a website built.
Okay.
But again, we have the Facebook page. And It's open page, so even if you don't have Facebook, you could see it, but you can email the email.
Okay.
But
So-
I mean, for profit, that's not a bad thing. People will always think for profit bad, but they still support you as a human. So
Yeah.
like people want to support as they hear your story. They're going to want to support for profit, non-profit, either or.
Yep.
Because if they have the funds to help, they're going to help. You know what I mean? So
yeah, as we grow, the plan is for every person, every 3 people that purchase a coaching sessions or a package or whatever, then somebody on the nonprofit side, they'll be supporting somebody to get free.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and survivors will be chosen, by, it'll be either sliding scale or, if they don't have the funds to pay, we want people. And hopefully, as people grow, as we go through, because there's new students every year that do coaching. So I'm going to reach out to the coaches and say, hey, do some of you guys want to work with, because you have to work with people as you're going through the program.
Mm-hmm.
So, there'll be people that will take people on and just be able to help them. And because I feel like, I didn't show you guys the Dragon Tree book, but it's one of the most organized books I've ever seen. It's a planner and it's a dream book. The first 30 pages is basically, it's all about you. It's like, what are your gifts? What do you want? And then it breaks down. You do your goals every quarter, and then there's things in there where you can like personalize it, and you can track your eating, or you can track your a habit tracker, so you can color it in and do all these fun little things. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen, and I just thought this is a way. This should be taught in high school.
Right.
How to plan, how to reach goals, how to decide what you're going to do. So I thought when you go through a trauma or you're doing trauma work. That crossroads place of like, what am I going to do from here? Where am I going to go?
Right.
Most people are there, so it's a way to help people get back, like, figure out, okay, this is what I want to do with my life, or where I want to start, just a starting place, a jump off place of where I want to go, where I want to see myself, because it gives you goals, because you do, year, 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year goals, and then lifetime goals. And, and it gives you these little bubbles, and you can draw out stuff too. It's really artistic and creative, but I just thought it was a really cool thing. And, to be able to give people a way to, it's a kind of a workbook of like, how do I plan life? What am I doing with myself?
Right.
Because when you've gone through some kind of trauma, or you start, peeling out that onion, that's when you start thinking about these things. It's like, where I am, and where do I want to be, and how do I get on the other side to bloom. And so our slogan, one of them is live the Lotus life, and the other one is healing transforms. So and that's what we want for everybody, is for them to come and their healing to be, their lives to be transformed.
Very cool. All right, I think we should about wrap it up. This might be the longest podcast we've done so far.
it is. I believe it is the longest podcast we've done.
We hit over 2 hours on this one.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 2
2
hours and
hours.
3 minutes.
Shut up.
It flew by, didn't
my
it?
God.
I know.
Yeah, Joe Rogan status. What up, Larry?
Hey, what up? What up?
All right, man. So I think this is going to wrap another episode of the PowWow. Let's see if we can get that last shot. Brad, man, we've got Joe Rogan,
Jamie.
the Joe Rogan Jamie
Yeah.
here, man, and we didn't have to use you one time, bro. So I apologize if you got bored sitting here for 2 hours. But
I cannot believe you talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
insane.
but
I feel like we could talk more,
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
It's got to put a...
Hey, I'll come back when
Yeah.
things are going on.
You know what I'm thinking? I think it might be cool to maybe get you to if you're up for it, to actually read chapter 25 and do a like a recorded version. So maybe we can, like, for people that didn't get the book, they can actually hear your chapter. If you want to do that. If you don't, no worries.
I don't know if they're going to do an Audible thing.
Okay.
So I don't know about copyright.
Gotta wait
that.
for it.
Yeah, let me see where things shake out with that. I can
You know,
also ask.
if they do an audible version, like I think your voice should definitely circumference the chapter 25, because it's very soothing, and when you're going to tell the story, you're going to tell it a lot better than a stranger is, right? Because you got the emotion involved.
You know what's
so I
so
would
funny
push for that.
is I hate my voice recorded, and people say that, oh, you have such a pleasant voice. I'm going,
It sounds good. It sounds great. Like you just you're not used to hearing your own voice. It's always awkward for like the first 5 minutes,
Right.
but it's
Usually you get used to it, and it's just... status quo. You're like, I'm just
Yeah.
used to my voice now.
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of time.
Well, when we get some things together, and we're going to do something hopefully in the next few months, I'll come back and we'll talk about it again and kind of update people with what's going on. But right now we're just ground zero and just trying to get everything. So we would love to have some board members. So if you feel it in your heart that this is something you'd like to give to, then give me a call.
Awesome.
Yes. Give
All
her
right.
a call.
All right, everybody. Well, this is going to wrap it up with another edition of the PowWow.
Yes, sir.
So till next time, next Tuesday, if you guys want to talk about anything, if you want to be a part of it, comment below. If you have any questions for Pamela, she'll be, actually we'll all be in the comments below commenting and messaging people. So if you need anything, we're all here for you.
Yeah,
so,
we're here for engagement. Let us know.
And if you guys are going through something that's too serious to talk about, or you don't want to talk about it in person, you can DM me, Andrew, or Pamela individually, and we'll take it seriously. We're not gonna
I mean, I have the
it's
sources.
a serious situation.
Resources. There's resources for everything all over the city, and if it's not something that we do, and I can definitely connect you to whoever can help you. So
there you go.
Yep.
All right, everybody, I got to get going. I got to use the restroom, man. I think we went through a whole bottle of that Carla Rossi there.
Right.
So, all right,
Appreciate
everybody, I
y'all.
love you guys. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
bye bye.
All right.
Holy cow, you guys! How in the world did we do that?
How fun is that?
That was fun, but you know what? I wasn't even this. I'm usually all strung out about it.